Hey there, and welcome to the Contentment Creator Podcast, the podcast designed especially for creative entrepreneurs just like you who are committed to a beautiful life that's rooted in courage and contentment, and that's blooming with creativity and prosperity. I'm your host, Ellen Broen, a certified life coach, a singer, a mother, and a lover of alliteration, dogs, and deep conversation. This podcast is designed to become a part of your daily routine to help you, fellow contentment creator, dig deep to clarify your life vision, catalyze your creative flow, and fuel your entrepreneurial fire in just a few inspiring minutes each day. Each episode will focus on how it truly is possible for you to be and have all that you desire through leveraging creative and courageous perspectives and practices. Please follow and rate this show on whatever podcast app you listen on so you never miss a day, and join me on my mission to help a world full of content creators become a world of contentment creators. Each Thursday, we will talk about consistency, and today's episode is all about the foundation for all consistency, self-care. Have you ever tried pouring coffee into a colander? I wouldn't recommend it. No matter how great the coffee is or how carefully you pour it, it's just going to end up all over the counter. That's what it feels like trying to create, lead, or even just get through your day as a creator without a solid foundation of self-care, or what I like to call CEO care. CEO care is self-care for leaders and creators. It's not just about filling your cup. It's about filling your cup and having enough left over to pour into your team and audience, which takes something different. Self-care is not selfish, and it's also not a reward. It's the fuel for the engine, the foundation for the home. The thing is, most of us show up with a hammer and some hope to build the life we dream of. We think that we can get by on very little and reward ourselves with luxurious vacations and massages after the hard work is done. We feel like we have to earn that break or that pick-me-up. But that philosophy, my friend, just doesn't work. Having coached hundreds of people at this point, all in various stages of their entrepreneurial journey, I can promise you that no one, I repeat, no one, can build their dreams without front-ending their luxurious self-care rituals. Those who wait till their fuel is almost completely empty to refill it will continue to stop and stall out in their businesses, relationships, and overall contentment. They will feel each bump in the road they encounter more aggressively rather than cruising down the highway with their windows down and tunes on, getting where they want to go with more ease, joy, and velocity. Now, hear me when I say luxurious self-care. Luxury doesn't have to equal expensive. For me, luxury looks like taking a mid-morning or mid-afternoon bubble bath to break up my workday. For some, luxury looks like deciding their work hours are from 12 to 7 because they relish their slower mornings. Leaders need luxurious self-care practices, and creators need to relate to themselves as the leaders of their lives, the CEO of their creativity and business. To use another metaphor that I often use with my clients, if you want to raise your ceiling, like your potential for growth and success and fulfillment, you first need to raise your floor. Raising the floor is about creating a baseline of well-being that you don't dip below. It's about meeting your foundational needs, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, so you can show up consistently as your best self. Think of it as building a house. No matter how stunning your design for the upper floors, none of it matters if the foundation crumbles and the floors are slanted. CEO care is the structural integrity that supports everything else. Without it, burnout becomes inevitable and consistency becomes impossible. Being consistent doesn't mean perfection. It's about showing up. So, how do we show up for ourselves? Leaders, creators, and caregivers often overlook their own needs. They get used to doing without, and they start to lose touch with their own needs because they're so focused on others or what needs to be done. So the first step I find to calibrating where your floor is and how we need to raise it involves understanding our needs. Self-care isn't just bubble baths. It's meeting our physical, mental, and emotional needs consistently. These habits build the stamina required for consistency in all other areas of life. So, in order to meet your needs, we need to know our needs. Let's lean on our foundation metaphor. Imagine trying to build a foundation without having any measurements. Sounds ridiculous, right? Yet, we often try to design a self care routine without taking the time to understand what we need to thrive. So, let's take your measurements. Answer these questions for yourself right now. Feel free to pause after each question to consider more thoroughly. Physically, what helps me feel energized? Mentally, what keeps me feeling clear headed? Emotionally, what supports my well being? Spiritually, what connects me to my purpose? These are your measurements. Without them, self care becomes guesswork. With them, we know how to build your foundation. And just like all construction projects, things don't always go according to plan. Sometimes we have to throw out the measurements and blueprints that we've so thoughtfully crafted for ourselves and improvise to meet the unpredictable challenges that we're facing in reality, like corners that aren't square or days where we wake up in a funk. Part of mastering CEO care is checking in with yourself in real time and meeting your actual needs. So let's imagine after answering these questions, you determined that what helps you feel energized is a HIIT workout at the gym and a morning walk with your dog. What helps you feel clear headed is writing morning pages and making your to do lists the night before. What supports your emotional well being is hiring a therapist and reading fantasy novels. And what connects you to your purpose is reading your vision statement every day and practicing gratitude or shared prayer with your partner and family every evening. That sounds like a really amazing foundation for well being, right? But let's say you wake up foggy headed after a fitful night's sleep and you've got a really important presentation to deliver later that day. You feel lethargic, grumpy, and like you just want to cancel everything. So, what do we do? What does CEO care look like here? So, we'll start by saying there is no right answer. Self care is as personal to you as your fingerprint. So, I won't pretend to prescribe to you what is best. But I will say that learning to build the muscle of knowing what we need is important, not just for regular self care, but for these kinds of days where we need to show up even when we don't want to, for our businesses, for our kids, for our spouses, for ourselves. Getting our needs met is an essential skill to our success and contentment. So here's what that might look like. Person A might determine that what they most need is a nap. So they reschedule their morning meetings. They own the negative impact of their last minute change with a sincere apology in an email, and maybe even share that they aren't feeling well and need to take care of themselves in order to show up fully for this important commitment later on. This choice models making choices from healthy priorities for others, practices vulnerability by letting them in on why they are rescheduling, and takes ownership of both their needs and the needs of others who require their full presence and bandwidth. Person B might determine that what they most need is a change of scenery, some connection to self and others, and some hearty, healthy food to fuel them. So they make a local farm to table cafe their office for the day. They call their friend on the way to fill up on some connection. They practice a little meditation and breath work in the parking lot before going in. They order a healthy breakfast and a strong cup of delicious coffee that grounds and energizes them for their workday ahead in the cafe. These choices model getting creative and going with the flow so they can do what it takes to maintain their firm foundation. Person C might determine that what they most need is to call in support and delegate what they do not have energy for that day. They call in a favor from a colleague to co lead this important presentation with them today, and even get their help in promoting the event to their audience. They request from their spouse to take over some extra responsibilities so they have a little extra space. They assess what tasks are high priority for that day and reach out to their assistant to manage the lower priority items. They open themselves up to receive from their team, their loved ones, and their community so that others can pour into them so they can pour into others. You can hear three completely different sets of needs and approaches among these three people. And we could probably come up with thousands more. The important takeaway here is that because each of these creators was practiced at assessing their own needs, They were then able to take the necessary actions to show up in integrity with their commitments and values. As we just witnessed, knowing your needs is only the first step. The next step is meeting them. For the everyday foundation building habits, meeting your needs requires commitment. It's not a one-time thing, it's a practice. Think of it like tending a garden. You can't just water it once and expect it to flourish. You can't go to one therapy session or one gym session or one massage and have a fully set foundation of well-being. You need to nurture it consistently, even on days when it feels inconvenient. Kaylee and Elise's concept of self-mothering, where caring for oneself involves providing the nurturing love and support we often extend to others, is a powerful concept to apply here. As a parent, we aren't just responsible for knowing what our children need, but for providing for their needs generously, consistently, and effectively. The same is true for ourselves. So, knowing how to meet your needs is essential. This might mean you know you need some more emotional regulation in your life. So, you try going to weekly therapy sessions, paddleboarding in the ocean, and even a rage room session for a month. After 4 sessions of each, you can notice which have the most potent effect on your emotional well-being and eliminate any that don't suit your needs. You can do this kind of experimentation for your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs. Meeting your needs isn't about perfection. It's just about progress. Start small, find out what works, and experiment as you need to. Lastly, consistency thrives on accountability. Sometimes we need external structures like hiring a coach, joining a church, or setting reminders on our phones to keep us on track. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Structures make consistency easier by removing the guesswork and decreasing choice fatigue. My newest accountability structure for my physical CEO care is signing up for an Orange Theory Elite membership. It means that I have the commitment to 8 intense workouts a month, but the flexibility to schedule them how I need to. For me, the expense is enough to keep me showing up for myself, and the structure is flexible enough to travel with me and accommodate my schedule. So let's stop thinking of self-care as something we do after the work is done. Self-care is the work. It's what allows you to show up, to create, to lead. It's what turns effort into impact and consistency into a way of being. Raise your floor and watch your ceiling rise with it. Because when you take care of yourself, you give yourself the capacity to take care of everything else. And if you're curious what the non-negotiable foundation firming practice is that most people miss from their self-care rituals, join me back here tomorrow. If you enjoyed today's episode, please show your support by rating and reviewing in your app of choice. It would truly mean the world to me to hear from you.